Okay. Everyone, sit and silence now. Works as well for the back of the room. Great. So I hope you enjoyed the coffee break. Now we're going to move to the next motion for a resolution by the Committee on Environment, Public Health and Food Safety 1. The topic reads as follows. Clean planet for all. As students and civil society movements march for a more ambitious climate policy, the Gilets jaunes Yellow Vest movement illustrates a growing discontent among those who feel constrained in their mobility and budget by green regulation. How should the EU look to achieve its 2030 and 2050 climate and energy targets while ensuring the transition is fair and manageable for all socio-economic groups? Is there a member of the proposing committee willing to deliver a proposition speech? NV1, you're recognized, and I'm going to ask everyone to listen to the speech and not look for points in the OCs, because maybe your points are going to be answered during the speech. NV1, you can approach the podium. You have 2 minutes, and I'm going to tap the glass when you have 30 seconds.
Hello? Okay. Dear President, honorable members of the board, fellow delegates, and distinguished guests, climate change exists. It's an issue that we are contributing to on a daily basis. Unfortunately, it's the biggest threat that each and one of us faces nowadays. Therefore, it must be tackled in an effective way before the consequences are too grim for us to recover from. Because, sadly, according to the United Nations, there are only 11 years left to prevent irreversible damage from climate change that would lead to an uninhabitable planet, which would mean goodbye humans. However, we must take into account that policies which deal with climate change have a direct and indirect impact among different socioeconomic groups. Having pointed this out, the NV1 committee have come up with several solutions to tackle climate change, while diminishing the gap between the different socioeconomic groups. First of all, we strongly believe that climate change on its own should be urgently fought. It's not only a question of fighting against the inevitable inequalities that different socioeconomic groups face when being subjected to the payment of, for instance, a carbon tax, but tackling the problem from its roots. Urging the European Commission to establish legislation that works towards the 2050 climate and energy targets, or recommending this same institution to fund entities such as the EIT Climate Knowledge Innovation Community, whom are innovating to develop more sustainable technology that could be implemented on a European scale. These are only a few of the solutions that will definitely contribute in achieving the abolition of climate change. Secondly, we've ensured that all measures proposed by us are inclusive to all different socioeconomic groups. Therefore, we suggest member states to lower their carbon tax for vital products and services such as in order to assist low-income households who may otherwise be forced to go without basic needs. At the same time, we recommend member states to follow the Luxembourg initiative that aims to offer free public transport by 2020 through subsidizes and make it accessible for everyone once and for all. Thus, fellow delegates, as we've been able to prove to you, this situation is critical. Taking action now in preventing climate change is crucial in order for humanity to have a future. Our solutions not only tackle this ongoing worldwide issue, but also take into account the needs of all socioeconomic groups in order to make this transition as equal as it needs to be. This is the reason why we strongly encourage you to vote in favor of it. Because after all, no future means no more EYP, no more us, and no more humanity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Julia, for your proposition speech. Before moving to the position speeches, we have a small surprise for the proposing committee, which consists of a nice video from an EU commissioner.
Dear participants, first of all, I would like to thank you for your engagement, making this effort to discuss, debate, and most importantly, to hear other views is the basis of our European Union. It reflects our fundamental principles, our democracy. Keeping those principles healthy from generation to generation is essential. So, thank you again. You started this session of the European Parliament at a time when environmental issues last May saw that reflected at the polls. People want their air to be clean, their water to be plastic-free, their cities to be livable, and their future to be secure. Discussing how we pay for these efforts and how we make them fair for everyone is key. So I am delighted you will make this part of our session. As European Commissioner for the Environment, Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, I have spent my mandate making certain that we improve our efforts to combine blue and green. What do I mean by that? Well, as 70% of our planet is ocean, we need to make certain that our environmental policies do as much to protect our blue ocean as our green land. That is why we have invested so much effort in a radical new approach to plastic. Single-use plastic is being drastically reduced. New ways of reusing material is becoming the norm. We have taken big steps to a more circular economy, one that recycles, reuses, and redesigns. We have strengthened the way we protect pure air and water with stronger enforcement of our laws. Now, you get to debate these and to help us identify the next steps. So enjoy this session, it will stand to you. And thank you again for your passion. May it long endure.
So now, as promised, we're going to move to the position speeches. Is there any committees willing to deliver a position speech? So I am going to recognize a first speech from Draw 1. And the second position speech is going to be by Libe. You can approach the podium. You have 2 minutes, and I'm going to tap the glass when you have 30 seconds.
Yes, okay, thank you. So, Mr. Vice President, honorary rest of the board, and fellow delegates. I believe this issue in particular is incredibly complex, and when you think about it, it's really hard to solve, as we all have to make sacrifices, but what seems like ends up happening whenever everybody in society needs to make sacrifices, it ends up being the lower classes that take most of the burden. So how to distribute this suffering, in a sense, among all socioeconomic groups is an incredibly difficult task. And I do not think this resolution is perfect. However, I think there are a lot of really good ideas, and today I will focus on the positive aspects. So, I really want to say that, for example, OC number 4, which aims to include climate friendliness into the welfare of member states, is, I think, in my opinion, a very good idea, because welfare, as we see it, hits the lowest income brackets. So I think that including that is a very good idea, and I would love to hear it expanded, and I would love to hear about specifics as to like what exactly it could touch up on. And also OC 13, as the flights can emit as much carbon dioxide as a person in a developing country emits in 1 year, which is ridiculous. I think that it's very important that we start to try and actually cut down on this, as it's been predicted that the travel industry will only grow by 2050. And if we try to reduce our emissions to create that target, or to get to that target, then we really need to cut down. However, I think that it should also expand to be taxed, to tax the companies that do it as well, so we don't put all the burden on the consumers, but that we also give it to the company makers as well. And for number 17, I would also like to applaud that OC, as I think that it should be, the carbon footprint should be visible to all, and we should really start thinking about everybody's carbon footprint in every single thing that we do, with everything that we eat, and it should be just as regular as a shout out to data privacy and Libe as cookies on websites. So, to conclude, I urge you all to engage in constructive debate and recognize a good start to this resolution, and remember our common goal for a green and blue Europe. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, dear members of the board, fellow delegates, and distinguished guests. My name is Farouk. I am here on behalf of the DROA 1 committee. And first of all, before we begin, I would like to actually give some credit to ENVI Committee for actually presenting a very great resolution by giving them some credit for the third OC and the fourth one. I think if these are going to be implemented in a correct way, these can actually help the topic very well. And I just want to say good job. However, there are some OCs that I have some questions, and I would like you to elaborate a little bit on them. My main focus is on the 13th one, where you suggest to tax at frequent users of sea and air travel. Do you suggest taxing people who use those air and sea travels, which means customers? Or do you mean to tax companies who provide these sort of travels? Also, you suggest in your 18th OC that you would like to provide a possible education, possible education for young professionals who are preparing themselves for a possible future career transition. So my question is, aren't there some people who, as you mentioned in the 8th OC, are going to lose some job losses are going to occur? What about them who already are not really young people, they're adults in their 40s and their 50s? What about them? Is this going to be covered also? And yeah, that is about it. I would like to hear your information about this, a little bit of clarification, and I hope this you will answer and we will have some quality debates later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these two position speeches. Now I want to ask the proposing committee if it's willing to answer to these two speeches. And yes, it is. And everyone, you're recognized.
First, I would like to thank both the representatives of Libe and DROA 1. And I agree with it. I think it's quite a good resolution. We're proud of it. Libe 1 asked for specifics on OC4. Here we mean like that lower socioeconomics group now could have possibilities with expensive with expensive green technology such as sun cells, etc. So we want to help them with that. And yeah, OC 13, travel emission will grow. Yeah. Indeed, it might be a good plan to tax the air companies as well. However, this will not directly reduce the number of flights. Because that's not something they can actually count. They can actually ask the consumers to pay. And OC 18, older people. That's why we said in rural fossil fuel dependent regions, because in those regions, in the close future, there will be no replacement of fossil fuels because they're too dependent. So older people will probably already retire before the closing of the fossil fuel dependent industries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. So now it's my pleasure to open the first round of open debate for the motion for resolution by ENVI. And the first point is going to go to ITRE 3, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing us. I have a point on OC 13 about carbon taxes. Carbon taxes are proven to be effective in some countries. Unfortunately, in 16 of 25 countries which use carbon taxes, they only see an average of 1% carbon taxes fall, not enough to reach the 2030 goals. We suggest informing people of all ages on the simple but effective actions you can take as a citizen, such as using reusable bottles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ITRE 3. Where is your committee placard, NV1? Here. So we have a direct response from the proposing committee, NV1. You're recognized.
So you said that carbon taxes are usually not effective, but what we discussed is that carbon taxes can be extremely effective and have positive social effects when they are combined with sufficient compensation mechanisms, such as our OC12. That's all.
Thank you very much, NV1, for this clarification. Now we're going to move with a point by ITRE 2, followed by the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs. ITRE 2, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing me. So talking about jobs, in the operative clause number 8, it is stated that, green businesses and green energy sector will compensate for some job losses. So what are the other people that lost their job gonna do? Shouldn't be something like an aiding fund be created to aid the people that I just took in consideration? Thank you.
Thank you, ITRE 2, for your point. Now, as promised, we're going to take a point from the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs, and it will be followed by the Committee on International Trade, INTA. And Paul, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognition. I would like to get back to OC number 13, because I think this solution is simply not possible. You can't have information on every passenger user of sea and air travel. You could introduce the tax on the companies which provide these possibilities, but with that, you would increase the price of these services, thus making them unaffordable for ordinary citizens. And I strongly oppose this solution because, as we have just recently gotten to the point of having affordable travel by sea and mostly by planes, and I think that that's the reason which I oppose it, is that this has enabled me to participate in this session. Because if you tax the companies as well, the price of the tickets would skyrocket and it would become unaffordable for the normal citizen. So I think that the taxation is not a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Talking about skyrocketing prices, Afet wants to direct respond. Afet, you're recognized.
Vielen Dank voor das Wort. In general, I want to add to the 13 clause, 13 OC, because there is a much simpler solution to what we've been discussing than we've thought before. That is that the kerosene that planes use as fuel is not taxed in the EU. So that should be addressed, because that has the potential to change the market for aviation and force companies to change from old planes to brand new ones that can reduce the footprint of carbon emissions by 15%. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Afet. Now we're going to go on the other side of the room to Econ 1, who wants to direct respond to you. Econ 1, you're recognized.
Well, thank you for recognition.
I'm sorry, INTA is raising a point of order. Econ 1 is raising a direct respond. I'm going to recognize your point after the direct respond. Econ 1, you can go on.
Okay, thank you for recognition, and I would like to add it that by taxation the kerosene, you would lower the competitiveness on the companies, which could lose to, like, a lot of people could lose their job, because according to the Eurostat, 2.5 million people work in 2016 in airline industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Econ 1. Inta, just so you're not afraid, I'm going to recognize the direct response before your point. Imco, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing me, sir. I just want to state the fact that innovation, and in this case the innovation of green airplanes, is also causing for making new jobs. So it isn't the case that there will be a lot of unemployment, but they will just shift to another company and make green airplanes instead of polluting airplanes. Thank you.
Thank you, Imco. Now, as promised a few minutes ago, we're going to recognize Inta.
So, thank you. I'll have to disagree with the position speeches that were referred before, because I believe this resolution sadly has some unclear clauses, and I was focusing on clause 11, that is the clause about a youth program aimed at people on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum, allowing student exchange opportunities on climate change issues. I can't really understand how it can be relevant and how it can solve, at least partly, the problem we're debating on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inta. Now we're going to give the opportunity to the proposing committee to answer this first round of open debate. And V1, are you ready to answer the first round of open debate? Yes, it looks you are. And V1, you're recognized.
Okay. So I will start by addressing ITRE 2's question regarding the 8th OC, which is essentially what do we do with the people who can't find a job in the new industries that are innovating. Essentially, we were worried about the issue of unemployment due to fossil fuel industries dying. However, we wanted to not stunt the progress we are making towards battling climate change in doing so. And we believe that the innovation could actually put a lot of people into new jobs and could very well compensate for almost all of the job loss and eventually could even create more new jobs. Then I will continue by addressing OC 13, which was addressed by both ITRE 3 and EMPL. One of the critiques was that some countries experience ineffectiveness with these taxes. However, our main goal here was to deter people specifically from sea and air travel so that they would choose more sustainable modes of transport, for example, trains, which emit a much lesser carbon footprint. And regarding the fact that using directly a carbon tax would drive the prices up, we believe that taxing companies would also drive the prices up because it would drive the costs up for the companies. And we also believe that through our OCs 20 and 21, which address specifically the emissions trade system, where we say that we want to gradually phase exemptions out for free permits to pollute, which are largely granted to aviation companies, for example. We are also taxing those companies and providing more revenue to battle climate change. And then lastly, addressing OC number 11, which was addressed by INTA on the relevancy of this OC specifically. We believe that this would be a program similar to those of Erasmus Plus programs, where students can travel and are sort of engaged to participate in the program with the purpose of traveling and can learn a lot about specifically climate change from experiencing different cultures and how they deal with climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronan. So now we're going to move to the second round of open debate. And we're going to start with a point from the Committee on Human Rights. One, draw one, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. I don't mean to dwell too much on the topic of the 13th OC regarding airplanes, but I do have one question, and that is, for example, let's say some family is living in separate parts of the member states, like you are decreasing kind of their chances of eventually meeting. My question is, if you are suggesting tax, what sort of alternative are you providing for these people to meet? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Draw 1. We have a direct response from Econ 2. Econ 2, you're recognized.
Yeah, just wanted to add that really under some circumstances, usage of cars, which may seem attractive for people who can't afford planes, can leave even bigger carbon footprint. So I guess it can even harm nature in some way. Thank you.
Thank you, Econ 2. Now we're going to move to Draw 2. You're recognized.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for recognizing Droit 2. In OC 15 and 16, the committee pleads for campaigns to raise awareness and to convince skepticists that climate change is real. But both OCs are actually rather ineffective, as climate change skepticists won't be convinced by an Instagram post, and the rest is already aware of climate change. The problem lies within the government and not with the people.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Now we're going to move to our next point from the Committee on Economic and Monetary Affairs, the third, Econ 3. You're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing Econ 3. So my point refers to the OC 17. So how will the information about the carbon footprint be gained for each product? Furthermore, our committee does not think that the companies will be eager to display the carbon footprint, since it may reduce their revenues and market share and affect image if they are not sustainable. If it will be obligatory, such action will actually exacerbate the issue of greenwashing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Econ 3. Now I'm going to ask ITRE 3 to just skip one placard to avoid any kind of confusion. Now I'm going to take 2 points, one from AFET and one from ITRE 1. AFET, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing me. I'm going to ask a question about OC 16. Since a considerable part of your OCs are dependent on reaching out to the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum and to the citizens living in rural areas, how are you going to assure that these media campaigns will be successful and reach their goals in provincial areas? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Afet. Now we're going to take the direct. Okay. Before taking the direct response from NV2, I'm going to ask Afet to briefly summarize your point. Speak slowly so we can so Inta back in the front can understand it.
I'm basically saying that how are they going to assure that they reach their goal with their media campaigns on OC 16? Because of... Oh, sorry.
All good, Inta? You get the point? Perfect. Yes, and V2, I did not forget you. You're recognized.
Irene Constantinidou. So I would like to add something to the question about OC number 16, that we already have so many existing media campaigns. So why not contribute, not only that they will not work, but not contribute with the, for example, youth for climate organizations to provide the right information and give to all the people the right privilege to contribute to this situation about the climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene, for building on Afet's point. Now we're going to take 2 last points. As promised, the first one is going to come from ITRE 1, and the last one is going to come from the Committee on Human Rights 1. ITRE 1, you're recognized.
Thank you. I would like to mention that OC 12, in my opinion, seems a little bit discriminating, because why are you just preferencing low-income households? Why are you forgetting about the other ones? And it basically seems like you just want to give away money to low-income households and just forget about the other households. Thank you.
Thank you, Mattis, for raising your concern. We have the Committee on Human Rights 2 willing to direct respond. Draw 2, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you for recognizing us.
Draw 2, can you speak a bit further away from the mic?
What? Like this? Thank you. Yeah, our direct response concerns point 12 as well. It could be more rational to consider carbon tax reimbursements, not in terms of, paying the tax increase itself and compensating the increase itself, but to support an eco-friendly transition of low-income households. That's how we can become more eco-friendly without compensating an increase itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Draw, to answer Mattis. We have a point of personal privilege right there. Afet, is it a point of personal privilege? Okay, then avoid taking the colors of other placards. Good. So now, as promised, we're going to take the very last point of this second round of open debate. And don't get overly excited because it's already claimed by Draw 1. You're recognized.
Thank you very much. Since we're talking about European Union, it's understandable that the resolution is kind of based on Paris Agreement, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of vague because experts are basically agreeing that it's far too less ambitious to actually do something efficient. So if I were you, I would maybe consider adding to your resolution actually valid information or proposal source, such as IPCC reports, because this resolution is good, but it could be even better and more efficient, probably. So.
Thank you very much, Draw 1. So now, as promised, we're going to give the proposing committee the opportunity to answer this second round. NV1, you're ready and you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. So my first point would be in response to the most recent point just made, and our resolution's aim is to ensure that while solving the issues of climate change, we ensure that these solutions don't leave anyone behind, and the transition has to be fair and manageable. So when we focus on Europe and we focus on existing agreements, we're focusing on bettering those agreements so that people aren't left behind afterwards. So then Itre, who referred to OC12 about the carbon tax reimbursements, I wouldn't call it discrimination because I think what we're doing is acknowledging the fact that lower income households will be crippled by climate change, by taxes, by whatever, and they will need the reimbursement because they can't afford to live at the same level of an eco-friendly lifestyle than someone on the higher end of the income bracket. Regarding OC17, with the information about carbon footprints, saying companies won't want to do that, that's a given. Cigarette companies don't want pictures of lung cancer on their displays, but they have to because it's better for society. And companies are going to have to give up some of their comfort in order for us to save the planet effectively, and because consumers have the right to know what they're purchasing and if it's good for the environment or not. Then regarding OC16, climate skepticism is an issue. We acknowledge it's an issue, and we acknowledge that some people are just going to be set in their ways and not going to change their mind, but we still shouldn't ignore it. And I know there's a media campaign is a bit of a buzzword in EYP, but they work. We find things out from social media, from TV, from radio, and if you hear something again and again and again, it's going to stick in your head. Then regarding OC13, which was a very controversial one, first of all, planes and boats and cars aren't the only modes of transport, especially within the EU, which has a lot of incredible train systems. So we're not stopping people from going where they want to go, we're just encouraging them to do it in an eco-friendly way. And also, this tax would not make planes unaffordable for anyone. It would literally just mean that they might think twice before booking a plane or a boat or driving somewhere.
Can you please conclude?
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christophers. Now we're gonna start the last round of this motion for a resolution, and we're gonna take a total of 4 points. The first point is gonna come from Itre 2. You're recognized.
Thank you so much for recognizing. I have a question regarding OC number 6. What do you mean by more ambitious measures? Could you please clarify? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Itre, for your question. Now we're going to move just next to you with the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs. And Paul, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing us. So my point is regarding the OCs 1, 3, and 14. So the committee actually mentioned something about creating a platform so like member states and EU policymakers can get informed and make informed decisions. So actually there's an organization called EEA, which is European Environment Agency. I don't object to the idea of creating a platform, but since it's a perfect idea, actually our representatives at the European Union came up with it first. So how about we use EEA, European Environment Agency, as an umbrella for our platforms. So I suggest you amend your clauses so it can be like 1. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, for your very elaborate point. Now we're going to take the second to last point from IMCO. You're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. So in your OC 14, you suggest to create a program where citizens participate in formal discussions, but I think that it wouldn't bring us anywhere, as it's very hard to implement it in the real life. And even the meeting of the Climate Recon 2050's policymakers platform that took place in Warsaw previous year hasn't made any changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, IMCO. Now I'm going to take the very last point of the very last round of the open debate of the very last ENVI committee. And this very last point, no, I'm not. It's going to come from the Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs. Libe, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. Regarding OC number 9, as you may know, I live in Luxembourg and I know the country quite well. And I also know that Luxembourg is a country who has a healthy economy, and moreover that it is a very small country and it doesn't have nearly as many different forms of public transport as other member states. Hence, I do not think that many other member states would be able to realize this OC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Libe. Unfortunately, ITRE 1 doesn't want you to be the last point of the last round of open debate. ITRE 1, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. I want to exactly add on this point. In my hometown, actually, with a population of 70,000 people, my city has initiated one free day of public transport, 1 day in a week, every week, which costs them 280,000 euros a year. Doing some simple calculation that adds up, if you want to establish that on the European level for every day, it would cost the European Union over 500 billion euros a year, which is a total of about 1/36 of the total GDP of the European Union. So I would say the cost efficiency of this proposal is quite low. I would rather see investment made in a carbon-free public transport system per se. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ITRE 1, for elaborating on a concrete ID to include in the resolution. So, as promised, we're going to go... Oh, Libe really wants to be the last one. Libe, your direct response is recognized.
Okay, so you said, what did you say? 30,000 inhabitants. Maybe. Right? 70,000. Yes. Luxembourg, I mean, the country has 500,000. But that's still nearly not even close to other member states. So I do not think that is very valid. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Libe. Now, as promised, we're going to go back to the proposing committee to answer this last round of open debate. NV1, you can also start thinking about an amendment and be ready to submit it in a minute. NV1, you're recognized to answer this last round of open debate.
Okay, I'm going to start with the question from ITER 2, asking for clarification of OC6. So by OC6, what we meant was adding an additional optional protocol to the existing Paris Agreement, sort of like UN conventions have optional protocols that signing parties can commit to, which have additional and more ambitious measures. So we think that would be something effective. And then to answer the point from EMPL about OC1, about the European Environmental Agency being a possible actor that could perform this action. We checked, and EEA does not currently advise businesses on how to adjust to climate change, but sure, it could serve as the actor if its duties were expanded. And the point from IMCO about OC14, the program's point is that the voices from those at the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum and all across the spectrum are heard, because currently lower socioeconomic groups are disproportionately affected by green regulation and their voices aren't being listened to. So to do this, we want to make sure that they have a place at the table. And the point from Libe about OC9, the Luxembourg initiative. So I think it was mentioned that it wouldn't work maybe outside of Luxembourg, but it can be expanded, and it's extremely important in isolated regions where people only really have the option to use a car because they aren't reached by public transport. And the money, the point about cost efficiency, the money could come from carbon tax revenues or redirecting fossil fuel subsidies. And yeah, that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, NV1. NV1, I'm going to give you 45 seconds to maybe come up with an amendment and to inform us with such amendment. Great. We've received NV1 amendment. The amendment is about a modification of OC13. The OC13 reads now as follows. Calls upon member states to adopt a kerosene tax aimed at frequent users of sea and air travel. I'm going to repeat it. Calls upon member states to adopt a kerosene tax aimed at frequent users of sea and air travel. Is the proposing committee ready to deliver its summation speech that is already on its way? Yes, everyone you're recognized. You have 3 minutes, and I'm going to tap the glass when you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. Dear Ms. President, honorable members of the board, distinguished chairpersons, and fellow delegates. Once Robin Williams, as Professor John Keating said, "Carpe diem, seize the day, boys, make your lives extraordinary." Unfortunately, this Dead Poet Society quote doesn't vibrate in our hearts the way it used to before, as the live in the moment mantra changed its meaning in time. The world has reached a point where the actions we take not only influence our personal future, but also society's dynamic as presented in our topic. During the debate, you have had your remarks on our resolutions such as job losses, taxes, etc. This is why we aimed to make our resolution better by the end of the day, by changing one of the OCs and adding that the taxes should be imposed on kerosene and also on transportation fuel. We responded in a manner that highlighted the importance of both ensuring a fair transition and diminishing the issue of climate change. Why? We cannot tackle one problem without aiming at its root first. This is why the Committee on Environment, Public Health and Food Safety 1 targeted to diminish social inequalities caused by the invasive power of climate change and try to fix that as well. We're dealing with a situation where decisions have been made or are at the point of being made that affected or could have affected other aspects of life. The Yellow Vest movement is one of our examples. Imagine our status quo as a wheel that's constantly spinning. The wish of solving one problem is directly or indirectly having a negative impact somewhere else, crashing its way to succeeding. You know what comes next. We didn't want to just stop the wheel. We wanted to break it. We have found a balance between the many variables that are found in our topic, thus eliminating hierarchy in a situation where all of our factors should be priorities. While ensuring that the voices of young generations, such as ours, are heard, some already taken measures are improved and new ones are implemented. Our resolution is a reaction to the world's needs in time of constant trepidation. We refused to let this universal melody that climate changes affect us economically and socially. The MV1 committee followed the divide et impera principle by dividing our topic into smaller yet significant issues and conquering more territory for a better future. To conclude, we hope and look forward to your positive reactions. And please remember, Veni, Vidi, Amavi. We came, we saw, and we loved the world we live in, thus wanting to make it a better place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, NV1. Now we're going to move to the voting procedure. So it's going to be your time to decide if you want to support NV1's resolution or decide that it's not your queen. Chairpersons, collect the votes, raise the placard when you're ready to submit, but do not submit. NV1 is ready, IMCO is ready, Econ 1 is ready, Econ 2 is ready, DRA 1 is ready, DRA 2 is ready, EMPOL is ready, NV2 is ready, ITRE 3 is ready. Econ 3 is not ready, LIBE is not ready. Econ 3, you should be ready again because you submitted. Good. Yeah, you deleted. Who's there? ITRE 2. We're waiting for ITRE 2 and IMCO. Oh no, IMCO is ready. Okay. Chairpersons, I'm going to do a countdown, and then you're all going to click at the end of the countdown. Okay? 3, 2, 1, submit. Who's missing? Okay, can the chairperson who doesn't see his committee name submitted in next minute? In the meanwhile, I'm pleased to, thank you, Afet, to announce that the motion for resolution by the Committee on Environment, Public Health and Food Safety 1 has passed. Congratulations, everyone.
Great, thank you very much, everyone. We're now going to swiftly move on to the next debate, which is our final debate for today, on the motion for a resolution by the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs. So the topic reads as follows: a new social contract. Following on from the publication of the high-level expert group report into the digital transformation of EU labour markets, how should the completion of the European Pillar of Social Rights take into account the changing nature of work? Do I have a member of the proposing committee ready to deliver their proposition speech? Excellent. You're welcome at the podium. You will have 2 minutes. Just to note, I'm going to have to be a little bit stricter with timings in this debate, seeing as we're running a little bit behind, so please try and be concise. Thank you.
Okay. Dear delegates, honorable members of the board, I am here today to talk to you about EMPL's resolution, so we can present to you our ideas on how we can solve the problems related to today's rapidly changing market. Due to advancements in technology, we as a society have advanced in life. But behind the curtain of benefits, there rest many problems on the shoulders of non-standard contract workers. And that is why we, the EMPL Committee, are bringing to you this resolution to your attention so we can help the EU's workforce become stronger. First, I would like to prove to you that digitalization is a current phenomenon, with the industrial report stating that depending on the member state, in the next 5 years, 12 to 45% of jobs will turn into digitalization. Digitalization has its own toll on the EU's labor market, both as a source of profit in the case of ICK, but also as a source of problems. Not almost every member state is okay with recognizing non-standard contract workers as actual workers, and hence they aren't granted any social benefits, like a normal citizen who contributes to the labor market would. What we aim to achieve with our resolution is an equality for all workers. Why should self-employed individuals have to make 2 to 3 times more financial contributions compared to standard workers to acquire same holiday pay, sick pay, parental leave, and more importantly, health insurance? Furthermore, the EU has been dealing with a recent phenomenon, also known as missing middle. Low-paying jobs, middle, and high-paying jobs make up the economic ladder, with technology almost removing the need for white-collar workers and helping companies profit more. Suddenly, employees in the middle class are left without a job, and high-paying jobs and low-paying jobs aren't able to bridge the gap, leaving the European labor economy with a job polarization in its hands. With all the aforementioned facts, I hope that you will look at our resolution more carefully and see that a vote for our resolution is a vote for the better of self-employees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I'll now open the floor for position speeches. All right. Thank you very much. Duly noted. I will indeed be taking one of the position speeches from IMCO. I will be taking the other one from INTA. So if you can please make your way to the podium, thank you.
Dear President, honorable members of the board, dear fellow delegates, I would like to deliver this speech in full support of the resolution of the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs. To begin with, the Committee's resolution, through the comprehensive ICs and each respective OC that explore many solutions to the raised problems, is explored in factual detail and depth. This is visible in IC D, F, I, and K, where there is factual data included to explain the exact extent of the challenge that is posed by the issue. Also, IC A and B clearly explain the problem of the lack of equality in workers' benefits based on standard and gender, thus followed by ICC also clearly showing the problem that follows up, thus mental health issues such as depression, etc. While the ICs are, as mentioned, comprehensive, the OCs follow through on the same track. This resolution offers help in all directions, for example, mental health aid, as mentioned in OC2, funds, as mentioned in OC6, joint studies in order to raise both awareness and communication, as offered in OC7. Lastly, the Committee's resolution also clearly states a stand on its last OC9, thus reaffirming the implementation of the digital single market in full support of companies and employees making use of the opportunities that digitalization offers. Based on the aforementioned, it is clear that the resolution coherently walks through the problematic issue of digitalization and lack of equality in the standards that workers work in, thus leading to this speech in support of the resolution and in request of other delegates to consider voting in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Honorable members of the board, distinguished guests, fellow delegates, and dear Committee of Ample. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on the resolution you have come up with, because I think you indeed did a really great job. However, I still have too many suggestions to make for this resolution to pass. Therefore, I'm now going to share some of those with you. While I agree that suffering from depression or having suicidal thoughts due to either isolation or loneliness are conditions that nobody should suffer from, and especially not due to a non-friendly environment at work, I don't really see how you are planning on resolving this issue when looking at your resolution. And that although the proposal of offering workshops and, say, therapy sessions specifically aimed at those two mental conditions would probably have sufficed for resolving that fact, the issue. Nothing to worry. I do realize that you're planning on sharing results of a study which is trying to identify the most productive and stress-free working conditions in order to raise awareness among employees and employers. I, of course, agree. Raising awareness is definitely a first step, but only a very small one, a tiny one even. Therefore, I strongly believe that this wouldn't be enough to really make a change. To continue, it is without doubt of certainty that knowledge sharing is one of the most effective ways of improving one's skills. I have to agree on that. I mean, if it weren't the case, what would we all be doing here? What I'm trying to point out is that while this might be a concept that is easily done, I don't see the connection that you draw in OC8 between this exchange of experience of workers from different forms of employment and the organizing of campaigns to improve the working conditions of the self-employed. Because the way I see it, you're making You are more or less asking for the self-employed to raise campaigns for themselves. I hope you can understand my doubts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayan Sophia. We'll now go back to EMPL for a response to those position speeches for 1.5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for recognizing me. Firstly, EMPL committee is grateful for the support speech by IMCO, so one big thank to you. Now, secondly, I would like to refer the attack speech that we witnessed here. So shall we start? We're thankful you mentioned the depression part because we really recognize it as a big problem. But I don't think you understand where's the depression coming from. Depression is coming from bad working conditions and they're not recognized in the labor market, and they do work alone. And we resolved all of that. We resolved stress and bad working conditions by giving them health insurance, parental leave, and all these other things. And the second part is with the organization, where they could share experiences and talk more about the labor market and their conditions. So the second point is the knowledge. The knowledge part is very important because workers need to be flexible in the labor market. By being flexible, I mean they need to have a great spectrum of skills in the digital market they need to use to be concurrentive in the market. So we resolve that with Erasmus and the organization that provide education. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll now open the floor for the first round of open debate. And we'll take the first point from ITRE 3.
In IC number, in OC number 8, you mentioned that you want to create association in which workers try to share experiences and organize campaigns. And I want to ask, why do you want to support creation of new ones when those labor unions already exist and are trying to achieve the same thing that you promote? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see NV2 has a direct response. I will recognize you next.
Irene Constantinidou, NV2. So, except from that, I would like to add that to ask, how are those campaigns going to get to the hands of those self-employed employees so they can get informed, and who is going to be responsible for the creation of those associations, and who is going to monitor those associations and those campaigns? Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. I'll now go to Inta.
Thank you for the recognition, Ms. Vice President. I wanted to ask the committee, what do they mean by non-standard form of employment for women and minorities in ICB, and what solution do they have for this?
Thank you very much. I'll take the next point from IMCO, followed by DRO1.
My point concerns the first OC. How would you like to exactly enforce this equal distribution of social rights, and what do you understand by social equality or fairness, because there are many differences in the understanding of these terms? Thank you.
Thank you. As said, we'll go to DRO1 now.
Thank you for recognizing me. The point is slightly similar to one that has already been mentioned, but I have another question regarding OC8, the question being, did you intentionally phrase the OC in a way which suggests that the workers themselves organize campaigns, or would this be a candidate for your amendment? I am saying this because I don't really see the benefit of choosing workers with no psychological education whatsoever organizing campaigns instead of professionals which would listen to workers' experiences and concerns and then decide how to best act on them. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Now for the final 2 points in this round, the first of which will go to DRUA 2, and then we'll take a last point from Econ 3.
Honorable members of the board, thank you for recognizing. I have concern on first OC. How are you planning to enforce equal distribution among all types of the workers in private services? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Econ 3, go ahead.
Are we on? Yes. Reading the resolution, it's clear that the committee is very concerned about people being re-employed if they get unemployed because of automation. And they're suggesting educational programs to fix this problem, but quite often the problem is actually with people not knowing that there are available jobs for them or that their mobility to reach these jobs is limited. Has the committee given any thought for solving problems such as these two?
Thank you very much. Now, as promised, we'll go back to the proposing committee for a response to some of those questions. Thank you.
First, I'd like to thank everyone for their points. So the first point was made by ITRE 3 on OC 8. They're saying that the organizations already exist, and while yes, this is true, there isn't a specific organization for freelancers, and also the ones that are made for non-standard workers aren't applied in every single member state. And OC8 was discussed a couple times, so I think this is an applicable answer. And then regarding OC number 1 as well, the type of social rights we would like to give to these non-standard workers would be we believe that they deserve especially health insurance and pensions, and then also sick pay, holiday pay, and parental leave, but in a different way, so that it would be after 6 months of work, then we can start giving them these benefits, because if not, they would reap the exact same benefits as a standard worker, which would just give a lot of benefits to being a non-standard worker, which isn't what we're trying to aim to do. And also on the point of women, minorities, and elderly people, they are the ones who are the most affected by digitalization, by automation. So I hope that clears everything up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the start of the second round, we'll first go to Econ 2.
Thank you for the recognition. Although you realize that women and minorities are more vulnerable to digital transformation, you seem to only focus on young people in clauses 5 and 6. Having this in mind, I would suggest that you could also target this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take the next 2 points from NV1 and ITRE 1. NV1, go ahead.
Thank you for recognizing me. I'd like to propose a motion. I can't agree with the point OC7. New researches in finding the way in improvements, stress-free working conditions, and the like have already been worked out. Furthermore, the efficiency has already also been proved. According to William Deming, he is a world-famous researcher in the field of management. The problem is in the existing system, and I agree with this point of view. Employers don't usually look at the main thing in business, quality. For them, short-term profit is often more important than the long-term development of the company and, of course, improving the efficiency and welfare of workers. So I suggest not focusing on new researches. We must promote and use those ideas which have already existed. That's why I think it's better to change the point OC7 in the resolution. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Let's go to ITRE 1 next, as promised.
Thank you for recognition. I have a question regarding OC number 4. I wonder what skills gap are you going to reduce? Is it about general skills in order to help such category of workers to find a new job, or is it some kind of professional skills in order to stop job automation and digitalization? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Konstantin. Now we'll take a point from AFET.
Thank you. Jakob from Slovenian delegation. So I'm looking at your OC1. Even though it is a just and noble idea, it's simply not possible, I think. Professions differ and so are their social rights. For example, radiologist or soldier is just entitled to more vacation days than, for example, office clerk. And your OC with phrasing like that is simply not taking that in account. So I would suggest, if you want to save your resolution, an amendment that adds, invites member states to enforce equal distribution of social rights among all types of workers, bearing in mind type and difficulty of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jakob. Empel, we are about to come back to you after one last question, so do you still want to use your direct response, or are you fine to just answer it in the round? You still want to use it? Okay, you're recognized.
Okay, so we talked about soldiers as freelancers. I don't agree with that idea, but I would like to talk about the solutions we came up with. So the delegate just stated that it's impossible to do something like that. First of all, I would like to say that nothing is impossible because we are trying to come up with great solutions about freelancers and even trying to create a platform so they can get your voices heard. And also, I think the delegate, because he mentioned like some irrelevant stuff about our resolution, I suggest he reads the resolution one more time because in the European Union, nothing is impossible. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification, Eat. And then before we take a final point in this round from Econ 1, I would also like to encourage ITRE 2 to get more involved in the next round. But as promised, Econ 1 for the final point of this round. Apologies, there's a point of personal privilege. If we can just try and turn that microphone on, and if you can just concisely repeat what you've just said. Thank you.
Hola. Thank you for the floor. Regarding OC number 5, in what way do you want to encourage member states to change their education systems? Is it maybe by adding new technology subjects, workshops, expert talks, or digitalization of education? I would ask you to further elaborate on the point because it's not clear what you want to express. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Now let's go back to Empel for a response to those points. Empel, yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the wonderful points that were made. First of all, regarding NV2 and OC7, so NV said that companies look at profit and efficiency, and it's not of their interest to do like such statistics. But what we want to notice is that employee engagement actually is proven to boost profitability by 21%. So companies are also interested in doing that. Also, Econ 1, you asked about OC5, like why is it needed, first of all. So because of labor market, we need more people with technical skills, with computer, who knows how to use technology the proper way. So it's simply because of the labor market. And how are we going to do that? Basically, we're going to implement in the educational system, for example, mathematics to be focused on more, for IT technologies to be focused on more, and just straightening the whole curriculum. Also, we were asked about the OC4. What is it about? Is it general or how does it work, basically? So what we want to do is give grants to firms that offer on-the-job training. So their motivation would be not to fire employees that would not have the job anymore, but rather train them and make them go to the higher positions. So that's the incentive we want to create. And finally, regarding the ICB, so we want to say that about women and minorities, it is not for solutions, but just for noticing that those people are already vulnerable in other spheres. So we are emphasizing that the benefits will also apply to other fields. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now to kick off the final round, we have a point from ITRE 2.
Thank you. Regarding OC number 8, you claim that the goal of the OC is to improve the working conditions of the self-employed, but is just sharing work experience actually going to improve their working conditions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next we'll be going to INTA.
Labiba Abdul, Finnish delegation. Thank you for recognizing us. I don't believe that operative clause 2 is very efficient. A quick search tells me that a self-employed individual is somebody who finds work for themselves or has their own business. So why waste resources on helping them with career guidance through a new organization when it is the self-employed people who understand their own careers the best, for example, with freelance artists? If I understood the incentive correctly, this OC seems more like an organization helping to find jobs or develop skills for work, a concept which is already generously available within individual member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Labiba. Empel, unfortunately, you have already used your direct response, and it's one per debate. We will next take a point from Libe.
So I would like to draw your attention on OC number 1, as I find it to be extremely vague, and my question revolves around what type of work, like what kind of workers, where are they working? Are they in the public sector? Because if so, then that's not very possible, as public benefits rely pretty much on taxes, which are different from member state to member state. Thus, you cannot enforce equal distribution to all types of workers within the member state. And then if you're talking about the private sector, once again, you cannot really do that, whether it be from the same type of company you are at the state or whether it be a foreign one, as member states are not able to affect the salaries within the private companies. So that's pretty much my question. What are you going to do about that?
Thank you, Despina. And now for the one last point in this final round. Oh, there is a direct response. I'm going to have to take that, so we'll go to you, Afet.
Thank you for the recognition. Just to further elaborate on the types of workers, I would like to highlight to Empel that they have completely omitted zero contract hour workers from their resolution. Now this is one of the most vulnerable groups to digitalization, as they have no entitlement to sick pay, no entitlement to holiday pay, and practically their contract revolves around whatever times that the company or firm that asks to give them. So again, I would like to ask them to clarify whether or not they even considered this group at all when they were writing their resolution. Thank you.
Thanks. I see we have a direct response from NV1, so we'll come to you.
The problems that were just mentioned by my fellow delegate are exactly the problems where this entire thing is about. So let's help these vulnerable groups by, for example, making insurances mandatory. This is a measure that has proven to be very effective for these vulnerable groups especially. Thank you.
I'm going to go to NV2.
Thanks for the recognition. So on ICB, you mentioned women and minorities as important factors, but you did not take them into account on your OCs. So how are you going to ensure that women and minorities are going to feel supported, even if you invite member states to enforce equal distribution of social rights? Thanks.
Thanks very much. I'm now going to go back to the proposing committee for a brief sum up of this round. Thank you.
Hello, thank you everyone for all of your points. In relation to the first point from ITRE 2 about operating clause 8, about who will facilitate the organisation, we hope to have it facilitated by the EU so that the workers are aware of their rights and that their voices are heard and that they have the opportunity for changes and improvement. In relation to operative clause 2, we basically, it's quite, we want, because there's a general lack of awareness about self-employed people's rights and their entitlements, we want, and it's very hard to apply for social protection, we want them to be able to be supported so that more people choose to be self-employed and it's not so risky a choice to take. In relation to Libe's points, we basically just want to ensure that all workers, standard or non-standard, are covered by the European Pillar of Social Rights. You know, whether that's a zero-hour contract, that means you should still be entitled to health insurance, disability insurance, and pension contributions, whereas if you're working on a specific contract for over six months or over, we also feel that you should be allowed to have sick pay, holiday leave, and parental leave. And I hope that's clarified everything. And yeah, we just want to make sure that everyone, no matter how many hours they're working, gets health insurance, disability insurance, pension contributions, and finally, actually, in relation to women and minorities, I know we don't have a specific OC saying about women and minorities, but we hope to help their situation by improving the STEM education and helping people adapt to the ever-changing job market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now give EMPL 1 minute to decide whether they would like to amend the resolution. Can the chair of EMPL approach the board, please? Thank you very much. I now have the amendment to the EMPL resolution. It's going to be amending Clause 8. So Clause 8 is now going to read, support the creation of an association in which workers in different forms of employment can share experiences and insight into professional campaigns and organise campaigns aiming to improve the working conditions of the self-employed. I'm going to read that out again. So, support the creation of an association in which workers in different forms of employment can share experiences and gain insight into professional campaigns and organise campaigns aiming to improve the working conditions of the self-employed. Thank you very much. Could I now please also have a member of the committee approach the podium for a summation speech of 3 minutes? Thank you very much.
Cheers. Sorry, just getting a timer real quick. Yeah, my phone's a bit weird. All right, chill. Okay. Okay, so good evening, fellow delegates, and thank you for the most interesting debate we've had tonight, in my personal opinion. Thank you so much for your contributions, which we have taken on board in amending our solutions, okay? So thank you very much for that. Now I'd like to continue on with my substantive part of the speech. So currently, digitalization is disproportionately affecting the people who need the most support to adapt to the changes, and we don't think this is okay. Now, we're talking about the women, the minorities, and the elderly. Now, I want you to picture, right? Picture this. A single mother for 3 kids who has no savings because all her money is divested into making sure her children can have a good livelihood, and is forced to go into non-standard work, and by this we do include 0-hour contracts, because they're the only things that will fit her schedule, allowing her to stay home and take care of her kids, as she so rightly deserves to. Now what's happening with digitalization is we're being forced to say to this incredible mother that no, you are going to be unemployed because your skills do not match the future skills which are coming from digitalization. Now it's not your fault, but the problem is you don't have the money to be able to retrain, therefore we cannot give you a job. You're also likely to have a 25% chance of getting depression, a 21% chance of having suicidal thoughts. And also, we're not going to give you social protection for the remaining amount of time you actually have in a job. This includes things like health insurance. In case something happens and you no longer have to be there for your kids, that's a big problem that we cannot afford to risk, right? And all this happens despite the crucial fact that this woman is probably working more hours than someone who's a standard worker, but they get the social protection that she doesn't, despite her getting more hours and having more need for it. And if we don't change this, if we don't change the status quo, we essentially destroy the ability for her to take care of herself and her kids. So, how do we step in and how do we solve this? So we solve this in 2 main ways. Firstly, through education, secondly, through social rights, okay? So firstly, looking at education. Through the skill sets, through like free education, we make her more employable, right? And through financial advice, we give her more financial security. Secondly, looking at social rights, so equal social protection, we give her like parental leave, letting her take care of her children. We give her hospital insurance, so taking care of her mind and her body. So we're also protecting from things like stress, okay? Now, once she's met these basic fundamental human rights, and she's now feeling dignified, she can go even further with our solution, because we now give her the opportunity, with the amended OC, to join a trade union being supported by professionals to actually increase and work together to create long-term, widespread, positive changes in the industry, right? Now, this is the vision, and this is a path that we, as the European Youth Parliament, must take in ensuring that we perform our duty to the members of our proud countries, right, the citizens, especially the ones most in need of support, which in this case are the minorities, are the elderly, are the women, and they need our help the most. So we must help right here and right now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Punim, for that passionate speech. We'll now move to the vote. So if I can get chairpersons again to efficiently gather the votes from their committees. Thank you.
Let's go.
Right, can the chairs please start submitting the votes? Can the two remaining committees please submit their votes? There we go. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to announce... Wait a minute.
I'm taking it down.
Right, yes, just give us a moment to amend and take out the extra votes, just so we have an accurate result.
Fireball. Fireball.
So um, just while we're waiting to fix the technical difficulty, so this is the last debate of the day, and after this we're going to be leaving quite quickly to go back so you can all get changed for delegation dinners. So just staying seated, if you could all just start to pack up. If you have any rubbish on your desk, make sure you take it with you. We'll have a bin at the door, but stay seated, okay? Don't move.
Right, thank you very much all for your patience. We've now resolved the issue, so as you can see, I'm delighted to announce that the resolution has passed with a... Congratulations, Empel. I'd now like to invite Ali, our editor, up to make an announcement.
Hello. Hey, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your day of GAing. To end your day on a bright note, I'd like to talk to you about an idea I had about 7 months ago. And it was just a concept, just a tiny little idea. And then I got some of my team, and some of my team conceptualized this idea and thought if we could do it and made it possible in some ways. And then the rest of my team came, and they actually did it. They created the content, they designed it, they thought about the user experience of it, and after days and days and days, a few sleepless nights, and about, I think, 3.5 hours of folding today, it is our pleasure to hand out to you your session issues. Attached to your session issues, you will also find a tiny little present from Valencia 2019 for you to remember the session by. Before you see them, the main white part, I'll call it, is for you to write on each other's. So grab your pens with you for tonight and write on each other's issues as we've left that space for you. I won't tell you how it works. I won't tell you how to look at it. We want you to explore it and you to really discover it. So please give a big, big, big applause to the media team for making this. Yes, if all chairs could raise their placards, they will bring you your issues. And also, please mention if you have any absent delegates so that we don't give any extras. So chairs, please raise your placards and the media team members will approach you and give you your issues. And remember to give some love to the media team members. Thank you very much. By the way, the chairs will get theirs later.
So, if you didn't hear, chairpersons, you don't have one yet. Chairpersons, you don't have one yet. So you can stay seated, you can explore, but also don't forget to clean your desk completely and to leave it the way you found it this morning. Also look at the floor, the post-its. And chairs, you can bring back the placards to the board.